Hey everybody, welcome back to an episode of The Elite, the Elite Count. I'm War Machine MJ, and I'm here today to talk about the first AEW Dynamite of 2020, aka the Homecoming edition of AEW Dynamite. Why is it the Homecoming edition? Because they kicked it off from Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida, home base of All Elite Wrestling. All things All Elite. Anyway, we kicked off the show with them making the announcement that for that show only, Tony Schiavone was being replaced by Taz, which was a welcome change. Taz looked like he was having a real good time. Everything was taken seriously. Tony Schiavone was not there because he was calling the Georgia Bulldogs game at the Sugar Bowl, so. Kind of like Taz on commentary. He had fun, and of course he took things seriously. We kicked off in-ring action with a Darby Allin vignette, which was him skating through the streets with a paper Cody mask on his face. Then he burned it, and then he had a then he had some guy come out there with the same Cody mask on. Darby came out, he ripped it off, and he was ready to go. Of course, Cody Rhodes came out. He had his grandiose chandelier rising entrance that I'm not too big of a fan of, but he had a special guest in his corner. He had the head coach of the Nightmare Family, perhaps one of the most underrated wrestling talents in all of the world. He did, of course, have double is Austin Aries. Double A himself, Arn Anderson, with his trademark Double A Spine Buster. So, they both step it up, and this match is very different from the last time they met up. The last time they met up, Cody was trying to keep Darby Allin pinned down. Now here, it's just Cody's trying to keep up with Darby Allin's speed. Of course, there was a point early on where Darby had Cody befuddled, where Cody went over to Arn to get some guidance. Of course, Arn was, covering his mouth so that, Darby couldn't read lips. And from there, he was just off to the races. This was one hell of a match. They beat each other pillar to post, corner to corner, ring to rope to mat. There we go. Towards the finish, however, towards the finish, Darby Allin goes for a coffin drop from the turnbuckle. Arn gets on the apron and yells at Cody to put his knees up. Cody, of course, gets his knees up in time. Then he rolls Darby Allin up for the 3 count. First win of 2024, Cody Rhodes, and this was a strong win for both men, because it wasn't a, oh no, Darby Allin's getting buried. It's Cody had to work for that win. Given that the whole story of the night was, can the Elite get back to winning ways? So, immediately after, we had a backstage segment where SCU speak up about the Dark Order, calling them spooky perverts. And, basically they were also mentioning the fact that they beat the Young Bucks to retain their titles, basically basking in their most recent victory when Sammy Guevara, the douchebag of the Inner Circle himself, comes up and just starts openly mocking openly mocking Christopher Daniels, saying he's got nothing. He's got nothing to his name but wrinkles on his face and L's on his record. So Christopher Daniels, of course, he took that as a challenge and he threw one out to Sammy Guevara for next week. And then he gave him a little parting gift. He just kind of, well, Sammy was live streaming, so Daniels just kind of licked his finger and swiped it, getting spit on Sammy Guevara's phone. I liked it. It was fun. Next up, it was a women's fatal four-way match for the AEW Women's Championship. It was supposed to be Riho taking on Chris Statlander, but Chris Statlander had prior commitments, and rather than All Elite Wrestling pulling their their big promotion chip, they just said, go ahead and honor that commitment. So good on them. That's how you build a healthy relationship with other companies. But back to this match. This match, oof, boy, howdy, they beat all four of these ladies beat the hell out of each other. The match started off quick as it was Nyla Rose taking on Hikaru Shida, taking on Britt Baker, taking on Riho. The match kicked off with Nyla Rose blindsiding Riho, grabbing the championship, and just kind of getting up in the faces of Britt Baker and Hikaru Shida. Britt Baker wound up getting taken out for her troubles. Hikaru Shida laid in a couple of kendo stick shots and immediately tried to go for the cover on Nyla Rose. From there, it's just, oh boy. They just beat each other pillar to post. Of course, Nyla Rose takes out Hikaru Shida through a table. Of course, it's been her staple as of late. Down the finish, however, Britt Baker hits Hikaru Shida with a Russian leg sweep. However, Riho comes in and she jackknife covers Britt Baker for the win. So Riho is still the women's champion, and she barely gets a chance to celebrate as Nyla Rose comes in with another table and loads up Riho and then puts her through the table with a flying crossbody. And then it would be announced that Chris Statler and Riho will face off for the championship next week in Memphis, which they made a point of saying next week is Legends Week in Memphis, where they honor legends of Memphis wrestling. Which, will they mention Jerry the King Lawler, given that he is the big name on campus when it comes down to Memphis wrestling? But then again, will they not, because he works for WWE? That's the tricky one. Anyway, backstage we had a Joey Janela promo, or we were going to, as he got cut off mid-sentence with, he was in the middle of his sentence, and then he just kind of stopped suddenly, and the camera pans down, and then there's the bad girl, Penelope Ford, forearm deep, in between Janela's legs. While Janela falls to the ground, the camera pans back up, and of course there's the bad girl herself with super bad Kip Sabian and commercial. Next we had a Dark Order promo as we come back from commercial. This one had no significance except for Evil Uno mentioning they answer to a higher power. Curiouser and curiouser. Anyway, next we had Trent with Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy in his corner taking on Jon Moxley. Of course, this was a far more competitive match than what you would expect. However, in the end, Mox drops Trent with the paradigm shift and secures the win. After the match, Sammy Guevara, of course, the aforementioned douchebag of the Inner Circle, is coming through the crowd, talking to Mox, and basically saying, "Hey, I know why you come through the crowd now. Free drinks and free food," which he's grabbing from the fans. And he says, "Yeah, we got a surprise for you," and he throws it to the video package where Chris Jericho was on there. And Jericho's outside the arena with a Ford GT, and of course his exclusive championship, his Le Champion championship. Oh, basically, Jericho is still making the hard sell for Mox to join the Inner Circle. Basically, he's saying that he wants more from Moxley than a piece of hair or a mask like Nightmare Collective and Dark Order, respectively. He wants him to be an equal partner. And one of the perks Jericho is offering is 49% of the Inner Circle LLC. That, and he wants to make him exclusive vice president. And of course, he also promised him the aforementioned Ford GT, which all of the members of the Inner Circle pitched in to buy with a custom Mox license plate. So of course, Jericho hops in the GT after he makes his pitch and drives off. Mox is back in the ring. He picks up the stick and says, "Well, all those perks aside, I respect Jericho as a mentor and friend, and I will answer you next week." So yeah. During commercial, because they cut the commercial after this, during commercial, there's Sammy Guevara with a bunch of cue cards. So, kind of like that they're doing that. Anyway, we come back from commercial, and Sammy Guevara's in the ring waiting on his opponent, Dustin Rhodes. Dustin's music hits, and Sammy Guevara's looking towards the ramp saying, "Come on, come on, come on," when Dustin sneaks attacks him from behind, basically playing the Inner Circle's games against him. Of course, Sammy Guevara was not alone. There was the big hurt Jake Hager. Hager would play havoc during the match. Basically distracting Dustin. Dustin even got a couple of shots in on Hager, even throwing Sammy Guevara into him. But towards the finish, Dustin was about to give Sammy Guevara I don't know what they're calling it now, but we're just going to go with Shattered Dreams. That corner low blow that he does. He was about to give Sammy Guevara that. The referee was stopping him, saying you can't do that. And while the referee turned his back to help free up Sammy Guevara, Hager came in, low blowed Dustin, and then Guevara got the 3 count. So yeah. Next we had MJF and Wardlow in the ring to name his conditions for his match against Cody. Yeah, of course, there was a commercial before this came on, and during the picture-in-picture, MJF was doing his best, and he succeeded with flying colors to rile the fans up. He riled the absolute shit out of them. Yeah, he would go on to name his stipulations. The first one is this match will only happen at Revolution. And it doesn't matter what MJF does, but if Cody touches him or lays a finger on him, no match at Revolution, no match ever. Of course, condition number two is that he would have a match against an opponent of his choosing, and of course he chooses Wardlow. So Cody's going to have to go up against a debuting Wardlow. And of course, after a little counsel with the aforementioned Wardlow, MJF decided to raise up the ante in a solid steel cage match. I don't know why they needed to emphasize solid, but whatever. And number three, this one's just kind of, I feel like this is a bit overkill. But he told Cody that he's going to have to get down on all fours in front of his family, his friends, and God himself, and whip him. And MJF is going to whip him. Not once, not twice, not 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8, or 9, but 10 times. So, yeah. There's conditions. There was a backstage segment where Jungle Boy is talking about how 2020 is going to, be his year after he had that spectacular end to 2019 where he went 10 rounds against Le Champion. And, yeah, somebody in the production queued up the music a bit too early because Luchasaurus was going to speak, but they kind of musicked over him. Then there was a backstage bar where the Private Party were chilling out when Hangman just kind of saunters in and pours himself a drink. Of course, he's fallen off the wagon since he's fallen on hard times. And of course, Private Party tell him to get to getting. Yeah, sorry. My eyes are kind of going to business for themselves. There was another backstage segment where Riho was going to get interviewed, but before she could say anything, Britt Baker just kind of goes full on bitch mode, if I could be so apropos. Yeah, she starts getting into Riho's face, yelling at her, basically saying, "Oh, hi, Riho. It's been forever and a half since we've seen you. Where have you been? Me, I've been here busting my ass for a shot at the championship. Meanwhile, I run a dentistry on the side." Yet Riho steals her win and just kind of zips on out. Of course, Britt Baker walks away, and Riho is confused. She doesn't know how to react. We cut back to the commentators' table, and of course, they announce matches for next week. Next week, we're getting the Rhodes Brothers taking on the Lucha Brothers tag team match. And then next week, we're also getting Hangman Page and Kenny Omega versus Private Party. And then, of course, Moxley will give his answer to Jericho. And speaking of Hangman, he stumbled his way onto commentary for the next match. The next match was, of course, the Lucha Brothers, Phoenix and Pentagon. Of course, they're teaming with the Bastard, Pac, against BTE, the Elite, of course, Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega. They came out with their BTE theme song. Be Elite, be Elite. Anyway, enough of that. This was an absolute masterclass on six-man tag team match. They just absolutely beat the tar out of themselves, out of each other. Of course, in the end, Omega and the Bucks get the victory, and yeah, that's how we closed out. That's how we close out the first episode on the first episode of AEW for the new year. It was a hell of a show, if I do say so myself. But that being said, it's the end of the episode, so it's plug time. If you missed Rod's opinions, but not his ugly face, he has a podcast now, Prime Talk with Rodimus Prime, on the podcast. Damn it. On the Castbox app. Check it out now. That being said, I'm War Machine MJ, and I'll see you guys next time.